It's always his or her opinion and not mine. Another identifying characteristic is that they can be very demanding. So narcissists will naturally pair up with people who have a martyr's attitude. They will get very angry. To an extent, it can get dangerous for you, and which leads us to another characteristic, that they can be abusive. You might want to understand your own psychological patterns and how those might be calling out to the narcissists around you and possibly exposing you, so that you understand now what about yourself you need to work on or correct, and that's where therapy comes in.
Hello, good afternoon from 254. My good name is Martha Soypan, and I'm welcoming you back to my YouTube channel. Karibu sana. You that is coming in for the first time, feel at home and feel welcome. You that are always coming in every time to consume my content, Santi sana. Continue subscribing, liking, sharing, and also getting motivated. Every day we speak of a topic, we speak of any topic. You're always there, you ask questions, and I'm really appreciating whatever you do. Now today I am very honored and humble. As you can see behind me, I'm at Clarity Counseling Training Center, and the founder is going to talk more about this. But today we are here to talk about a very interesting topic. Take a pen and a notebook, because you have a lot to note down and a lot to learn from this amazing topic. And without any further introduction, allow me to welcome her. Kindly introduce yourself and let's go through our topic for today.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello everybody. My name is Jane Gashiro. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. I'm also the CEO and founder of Clarity Counseling and Training Center. So today I'm here with Martha. And Martha, I just want to welcome you to our center.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for gracing us. And I'm glad to be here with you today to talk about narcissists.
Thank you so much. That's a very nice introduction. Now I am so honored being also your student, and today I want us to talk about who is a narcissist, because I know most of us out there are either living with them, married with them, having any affairs or friendship with them, and they don't know them. First, let's start. Who is a narcissist?
So a narcissist is someone who is very self-absorbed, somebody who has a very high level of self-importance, that they think they are more important than others. You can say they feel entitled. So sometimes they feel entitled to an extent that they imagine that others should worship them or others should esteem them very highly. So that's the person that is called a narcissist. Their major identifying characteristic is that very high sense of self-importance. Yeah.
And now how can you tell this is a narcissist? Because most people don't even know and cannot define or cannot differentiate a narcissist and a person who is not also a narcissist.
That's very true, because a narcissist will not tell you outrightly that I feel I'm more important than you. However, their behavior will tell you. So for example, if you're in a relationship with a person who's narcissistic, most of the times they can be very dismissive. So that means they don't pay attention to the other person's needs, and they also don't pay attention to the other person's opinions. The real reason they will not is that because deep within them they actually think that other people's opinions or other people's needs are not as important as theirs. So which is why they will ignore the other person's needs or the other person's opinions. That's why sometimes you hear someone in a relationship probably saying that I don't feel heard or I feel oppressed. It's always his or her opinion and not mine. Another identifying characteristic is that they can be very demanding. Very demanding in terms of they want very high levels of attention. They want you to do what they want to do, what they want you to do when they want you to do it.
So it's like you don't have an opinion in whatever matter. It's the opinion come first.
Exactly.
What?
And their needs come first. So their demands will mostly be unrealistic, but because they tend to look unconsciously, they look for partners who have that need to want to appear, to, let's say, to sacrifice. A person, we call that person a person who has a martyr attitude. There are people like that. So narcissists will naturally pair up with people who have a martyr's attitude, someone who is so self-giving, someone who always wants to stretch themselves thin for the sake of other people. And so they have very unrealistic demands, but you see who they pair up to, because this person is used to doing this, they don't see it as an unrealistic demand. They don't see it as a demand, in fact, until only when it's too late. That is when they actually start recognizing that there is something wrong with this, or another person will tell them. So that's the other characteristic. So like, for example, a narcissist will expect that maybe every time they go out, you should be seated somewhere awaiting their call. You know, if this person has gone out, they are probably drinking, they left you in the house, but they demand that every time I call, you have to come pick me up from wherever I am. You know, and if you don't, there is rage. You know, there is the normal person who's just selfish, but the narcissist now will explode. That's the other characteristic. They are very explosive. Their anger is not just like a normal person's anger. They tend to get angry and get into a fit of rage that is most of the times explosive. You know, like the way, what's the fastest car you know?
Yeah, no, Mercedes.
So let's say a Mercedes, or I hear people say Ferrari. I don't know how much about cars, but say a Ferrari, you know, people will say it goes from 0 to maybe 100 or 180 very fast. So they're like that with their anger. And especially when you say no, when the other person starts to like stand up for themselves, or even to say no to their demands, they will get very angry. To an extent, it can get dangerous for you, and which leads us to another characteristic, that they can be abusive.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, someone will ask, how do I handle such a person? Yeah.
With a narcissist, you can't afford to not have boundaries. So number one, you have to have very clear boundaries, healthy boundaries with this person, because narcissists are all about invading. I like to use this, I like to liken them to, you know, like the way we have vampires that people see on TV, we have what we call emotional vampires. A vampire feeds on blood. Well, that mythical creature, it feeds on blood to survive. A narcissist is someone who feeds on your emotional energy to survive. And so the more you give, the more you're feeding. It's like feeding a beast. So the more you give, the more you're feeding. So if you want to be safe with a narcissist, then you have to understand how to draw boundaries so that you stop feeding them on your energy. Because then as you feed, you're literally killing yourself. You're killing your spirit. That's how people who are victims of narcissistic abuse start to now lose their self-esteem. It's like you're slowly now, you know, like the way a flower withers. You're slowly withering. Yeah. Just like a flower withers when it doesn't have water. But it's really because you're busy watering the other person. So there has to be very keen boundaries, safe boundaries. You know how to stand up for yourself. Number two is to keep this person accountable. Most narcissists do not want to have to explain themselves or even to apologize. And that's how they tend to get away with abuse, because they make their victims think that it is okay for them to not apologize. In fact, they turn things around for you to look as though you are the one who's on the wrong because you're asking these questions. So for example, you will find most people who are dating narcissistic people, even when this person cheats, they don't want you to ask questions. So they will get into a fit of, a fit of rage when you ask questions. They will refuse to apologize. They will make you think it is your fault. But all the same, if you're with such a person, you need to learn to ask those difficult questions and to stay the course. And to actually now be very firm in asking this person to be accountable in that relationship, because that's what now fuels them if you don't get them to be accountable. Number three is that some people actually, some people need to understand why they find themselves dating narcissists. And I think I'm focusing a lot on dating, but I'll also go into maybe narcissistic people, like a narcissistic parent. If you find yourself dating a narcissist, you might want to also understand, what is this about me that literally calls a narcissist or attracts a narcissist to me? Because most of the times when you analyze relationships, you'll get to understand that people basically get into relationships, it's like it's like a, you know, like a padlock.
Yeah.
There are people who fit into each other, but in a psychologically dysfunctional way, a psychologically sick way. You remember, like the way I was telling you that the narcissist is likely to seek out someone who's passive. You know, the people who are, and there's a way that society tends to say, you know, nice people, understanding people.
Yeah.
And so if you try and
down to earth,
down to earth, you're not a bother. You know, they like such. So you might want to understand your own psychological patterns and how those might be calling out to the narcissists around you and possibly exposing you, so that you understand now what about yourself you need to work on or correct, and that's where therapy comes in. And then also it's very important when you're dealing with a narcissist to understand how you reward their behavior, because it's possible to reward somebody's bad behavior and yet sometimes not even see that you reward it. For example, if I insult you, and every time I insult you, you cry. I mean, this happens even in the office. If you have this boss who is in the habit of yelling at people, screaming at people, how come he doesn't yell and scream at everybody?
Yeah, he always picks on one person.
Exactly. So what is it about this person that makes him to pick on this particular person? When you investigate, you might find that maybe this person, whenever they are insulted, whenever this person maybe does something wrong to them, they maybe shrink back, they will cry, they actually start feeling guilty for something they did not do. That is exactly what the narcissist is looking for. So your response becomes a reward for them. It's like even with if you look at narcissistic parents, there's usually always a child they pick out on. They pick on.
True, yeah.
They will not always behave like that with all the children. There will always be maybe a child or two whom they pick on and they target them. Why? Most of the times when I'm doing client work and I ask my client maybe who's been a victim of such things, how maybe their other siblings will respond to the narcissistic parent, you see a very huge difference. Like maybe one of my clients will tell me, oh, if my mother tries to do that with my brothers, they just walk away. There is the answer. They don't entertain it.
Wow.
You shrink back, you cry, you actually fall for their manipulation, because narcissists are actually very manipulative. So if you have a narcissistic parent who is always threatening to curse you if you don't build them a house or if you don't give them, I don't know, 100,000 per month.
That is really happening a lot in the society that you are living today.
Exactly, because that's abusive behavior. It's emotionally abusive. A parent who gaslights you, and then you're constantly the one who is now trying to make them happy and comfortable. Of course they are going to direct all their energies towards you. So unless you understand how you reward the narcissist in your life and you stop it, you stop rewarding them, then the pattern can only continue and continue and continue.
And now a lot of people I know, now that today we've talked about how to defend yourself or how to prevent that person of taking advantage of you, if you don't do that, a lot of people will ask what else will lead to, because I know some have always endured and being in that relationship, you're being warned, you don't want to go, or you don't want to quit, or don't want to leave. Maybe they should at least get to know what are the consequences later.
That's a very good question. One, I've never met a person who survives narcissistic abuse without paying a price with their self-esteem. Most people who have gone through narcissistic relationships, whether it's with parents or with even workmates, even with friends, or even dating partners or marriages, most of them have a very low or poor sense of self-esteem. So that's one of the ways that's how you begin to see the effects of such narcissistic relationships. Two is self-doubt. There are people who even in their adult life, they will keep on second-guessing themselves. And it gets so bad to the extent that everything they do, they want to ask another person for their opinion.
Yeah, am I right? Am I doing right?
Did I told this person this yesterday. Do you think it was wrong? Should I have said something maybe better? Or how do I go about this? And sometimes I get even my clients telling me, you know, sometimes I go to send a message and I will delete that message like 5 times or 10 times, you know, because
you're always doubting yourself.
Exactly.
You don't have that self-confidence.